Take a moment and picture an artist for me. I'm going to give you 5 seconds. Who do you see? Are they an eccentric French painter, a writer, a sculptor, a Broadway actress? Now take a moment to think of art that impresses you. What art do you celebrate and isolate and set apart as sacred? Today I'd like to talk to you about community theater and the invaluable role it plays in our cities and in our lives. When we picture an artist, most of us are not picturing our neighbors, and that is a missed opportunity. When we think of art that impresses us, too often we are thinking only of art made by a select few, chosen to be set apart and held sacred by social elites. This too is a missed opportunity. Community theater is beautiful for 3 intrinsic and unalterable reasons. Number 1, it creates abundance from scarcity. Number 2, it makes the process of art making a process of loving. 3, through it we give ourselves the permission to thrive. Before we begin, allow me to ask just one more question. What purpose does art serve? To unite? To clarify? To document? My answer to this question is to care. To explain what I mean by this, please allow me to talk about another overlooked art form: sewing. Nine 723-8616. I have 2 phone numbers memorized in this world, my mom's and my grandma's. I can remember sitting at my grandma's table after school and hailing a grilled cheese. She made the best grilled cheeses, while she repeatedly quizzed me on this number. What number do you call if you get lost? What number do you call if you need help? My grandmother cared for her grandchildren by having a door that was always open, but also through our warmth, and I mean that literally. Hats, scarves, slippers, you name it, and my grandma could and would make them for us. Most notably was a patchwork quilt she made for me when I was little that I still use today. There were periods in my life where that quilt went everywhere I did, and it has the scars to prove it. Burns from a particularly emberous bonfire, a large heart patch where a now deceased childhood dog once chewed a hole in it. In fact, this quilt is so beloved to me that it's beginning to develop holes through wear alone. Some of these holes were fixed by my grandma in the even invisible stitches of a quilting master, while others show the work of myself as a young novice, too proud of my work to bother finding matching thread colors. In this way, this quilt serves not only as a beloved talisman of my childhood, but also as a sort of historical document, recording the transfer of skills from a quilting master to her quirky young apprentice grandchild. I'm better at patching now, but I will never go back and fix those early stitches. They are as much part of its beauty as my grandma's beautiful embroidery, because they too tell the story of the sacred love my grandma and I shared. As a freshman in high school, I had the dream of joining the circus. To reach this goal, I needed to attend circus school, which would require a large amount of fundraising to achieve. My very smart sister encouraged me to write a clown show that I could use to ask for donations towards this audacious goal. My first show, Pie Car 1, was born. As I progressed artistically, the dream of the circus began to fade as I became obsessed with a new medium of independent theater made by myself and my friends. To me, the very essence of creation is the concept of making something out of nothing, i.e., sewing a beloved quilt out of scrap fabrics. Many women in my grandma's generation learned to sew not out of creativity, but out of a necessity to provide for their families, and yet this work transcends durability into style and essence and incredible detail. In this way, these women cared not only for the physical needs of their families and communities, but the spiritual needs as well. They took the time not only to create, but to create beauty, and yet I don't believe my grandma ever truly saw herself as an artist. Similarly, I think too often those engaged in community theater fail to see their art as the extra layer of beauty it is. Theater creates abundance out of scarcity. Just as a master sewer is able to look at what she has and arrange it to create beauty and function, so too can creators of community theater. It doesn't take away from community theater that it must use the resources and creators available, but rather it is informed by this reality and ultimately enhanced by it. My show Pie Car wasn't impressive in the traditional sense. The set was minimal and the props were paper mache, but it represented a dream that our audience could feel. It was exactly because of our scarcity that we were able to create something beautiful, because it was real. Another reason that sewing remains an underappreciated art form is because it is so often offered as a gift to those we love as opposed to an opportunity for economic gain. This is also true of community theater. So often we define ourselves by what we do to make money, but perhaps it's a truer answer to define ourselves by what we do not because we need money from it, but simply because we have to. What does it mean for a group of people to commit countless hours to a project, not because it's their livelihood, but because they collectively believe it will make their community better, more empathetic, more caring? In this way, making art is the process of loving. In 2020, my friends and I wrote and directed a show in response to police brutality against Black and brown bodies in the U.S. We did this as an investment in the future of our small rural hometown in purpose that change could happen through the correction of misinformation. Art to us was an investment. It was an acknowledgement of where we were from and where we wanted that place to go. It was an act of creating an opportunity for families to interact around justice. This, to me, was a way of loving my town and staying with it. We pretend like it isn't the case, but we belong to a world of gatekeepers. Gatekeepers are individuals and organizations that would like to limit whose art gets seen and recognized. Should only the educated make art? No. Only the rich? No. Only those with the biggest budgets, the best connections? To all this, we say no. Theater gives ourselves the permission to thrive. It is insane, just absolutely insane to me, how many people get psyched to be in a play when offered the opportunity. I have worked with coworkers and non-theater classmates, family members, and total strangers. Something magical happens when we grant each other permission and opportunities to create art. When an audience sees normal people pursuing their dreams, it gives us all permission to see each other for what we are, inventors, scholars, and artists, regardless of our recognition, experience, or social economic status. We all have something invaluable to add to the work, and this work doesn't happen unless we say it does. We set the standard. We put the wheels in motion. We control the narrative. Community theater is important because we choose what stories get told, and by how and by what bodies. We choose what venues. We are not bound by funding because we use the abundance of time and resources our communities have to offer. Our work is multi-generational. It is about the old teaching the young, and likewise the young teaching the old. It is 1,000 misshapen stitches on a single piece of fabric. A bit crooked? Perhaps. An opportunity to create something beloved? Absolutely. An end product just as much about the process as the end result? Without a question. At the start of this talk, I asked you to take a moment and picture an artist. Has your imagination expanded? Do you picture your neighbors, your grandma, yourself? We live in a community that already produces art every single day. Let's recognize it for what it is, and let's celebrate it. Let's give ourselves permission to create, to love, and to thrive. Let's promote community theater.